And now if our school board candidates would please come forward. So we're going to do the same process as we did with the city council members. You'll each have 3 minutes to tell us about yourselves and your campaign, and then we'll have a question and answer period for 1 minute. And the first person that we'd like to hear from is Scott Clifthorne, position number 5.
Hi and good evening. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Scott Clifthorne. I'm running for position 5 on the Olympia School District Board of Directors. I'm currently the president of the parent-teacher organization at Lincoln Elementary School, the Options Community Council. And over the last few years of being deeply involved in my kids' education in the Olympia schools, I felt motivated to run because I think that there are a lot of ways in which Olympia has good schools, but I think that Olympia could have great schools, and I would like to be a part of making that happen. I was also particularly motivated to seek the endorsement of our revolution because of my strong identification with working families and working people. My professional background is in union organizing. Over 15 years, I was the president of my local union and had numerous steward roles. I was an organizer that helped 2 different campaigns organize over 12,000 new members into the labor movement in higher education in California and Oregon over the past decade. And I've done a lot of work, especially to win benefits for part-time and temporary employees, like paid family leave and health care. And I think that there are a lot of ways in which that track record of defending and fighting on the behalf of working people in education informs my perspective very deeply about how to work on a school board. There are 4 big things that I'm hoping to work on as a school board director. The first one is improving community engagement. I'm not sure how many of you were tuned in to what the school district did this past year when it executed its search for a new superintendent, but a lot of us had really big problems with that process. The school district is the 2nd or 3rd biggest employer in Thurston County, right? There are a lot of people that work for Olympia schools. The school board directors had in their hands the resumes of the top 10 candidates for less than 8 days before they selected a finalist. The community had just 3 opportunities to meet those finalists, and each one of those opportunities was an hour-long session where members of the community had less than 30 minutes to ask direct questions of any of the candidates. That's not the kind of community engagement that I think a school board should be having with its community. And there's also the English language arts curriculum adoption policy last year, where parents had to show up repeatedly to encourage the district board of directors to allow an alternative curriculum for alternative elementary education. And you know what? You shouldn't have to bang on the doors that hard to get school board directors to listen. The 3 other areas where I'd really hope to make progress in our board is implementing equity strategies to make sure that we're investing in the increasing diversity in our community, right? There are more English language learners in our community. There are more people of color. There are more folks that are facing economic challenges and homelessness. There are strategies that we can and should be investing in to make sure that those kids have all the same opportunities that everyone else does that's not happening right now. I'd also like to expand options programs like the ones at Lincoln Elementary, Hanson Elementary, Orla. We need more of those in the district. They all have wait lists right now. And last, I want to improve teacher compensation. We've fallen far behind North Thurston schools, $3,000 to $8,000 by classification, and Olympia can do better. Thank you.
All right, next please welcome Rebecca Cornelius, also running for Olympia School Board.
Thank you, Thurston, our Revolution, for having all of us here tonight, giving us this opportunity to express some of our concerns, some of our goals, things that we want to bring to the positions that we are running for. I am a parent of 4 in the Olympia School District, and I've been hands-on for 12 years now. In the last few years, definitely very direct with PTAs, PTOs, and other parent organizations. And I'm ready to go to that next step of wanting to be involved and take a different route so I can bring more change. I feel like that with the Olympia School District, there are a lot of good things, but there's also a lot of areas of opportunity. And I bring a really strong business background to this opportunity. I feel that the community needs to get more involved, and it's not just us as people, but it's businesses as well. I think that 10, 15, 20 years ago, we allowed businesses to support the schools a lot more, and we backed off from that to where no businesses could support the schools. And we're slowly starting to let businesses come back in and help in different ways, but I think we need to let more of that. You could do that with different mentoring programs, different sponsorships, and it doesn't have to be just on the sports side. It could be across the board. The other big thing I really want to focus on is bullying and teasing. With 4 kids in the school at 4 different ages, I see it across the board from elementary to high school, and I feel that there's a different approach we need to take with teasing and bullying, because it is significantly different than when you or I or any of us were in school now. And I feel like the way it's addressed, it's not handling it, and it doesn't mitigate it, it doesn't put a stop to it, it just kind of gets pushed to the side. And so that's a couple reasons why I feel that I want to be available and have a position on the Olympia School Board so we can help with these 2 big things for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And now Leslie Huff from Olympia School for the Olympia School Board, and it's position 3.
Yes. Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come and inviting us. I am interested in being on the Olympia School Board for a number of reasons. First, I have a deep belief that we need to contribute to our community, and we need to show our strengths in what we can contribute and allow that to guide where we go. And my strengths are education. I've spent over 20 years studying and working in education in 3 different countries. But this is my home, and this is where I'm at, and this is where I'm raising my child. And I want to offer my background in education to help develop a really great school system and a really great opportunity for our kids to be the best that they can be in whatever that is. So for me, I'm running to support my community. I'm running because I think I have something to offer. My background includes a PhD in education with a focus on language learners and training. I've trained a number of teachers and education faculty in cultural proficiency and how to teach better the kids that are generally underserved in our schools and generally in our communities as well. So that's part of why I want to participate in more board decisions more fully. I'm also interested in helping Olympia to be, as both Scott and Rebecca have mentioned, a really great school system. Not just a good school system, not just good enough, and that's not sufficient for me. And I don't think it's sufficient for most of our community. I'm interested in building our schools so that they have the opportunities that our community is searching. We have 3 alternative learning environments at the elementary level, and all 3 of them have wait lists. We need to do something to allow more of that alternative learning environment, whether it's a new program or just some of these ideas spread across to other schools, so that people who want to be a part of this alternative system or alternative opportunities for their kids have that opportunity. We have some great opportunities in the middle level, but again, there's very few kids that can participate in that, far more who want to. So how do we expand who can participate in those? Thank you. I'm also interested in equity. I think that is vital to our schools. I've done a lot of training of teachers and higher education professionals in how to take action towards making equitable decisions. How do we not make an equity plan? How do we make our communities equitable? How do we make our cultures in the school welcoming to everyone? And how do we change our graduation rates so that white students and all students the black students, the brown students, the language learners are all graduating at a high level. Thank you.
All right, please welcome Hilary Seidel, running for Olympia School Board Position 4.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us to be here. I'm also excited about having the chance to talk with you all. For many, many years, identified strongly with progressive leaders and subscriber to the Bernie buzz for many years before his run for president. So I am a parent of 3. I have 1 school-age child and 2 younger, so we'll be entering the Olympia Public Schools. I am a product and proponent of public education, and I'm running for school board because I truly believe that great public education is the foundation of our democracy. And if there's one place that I want to invest my time in making an impact in my community, it's in my schools. I have 25 years of experience volunteering and working in and around organizations and schools that serve kids and families. I started my career as a program assistant in a low-income neighborhood community center. I've worked for the YMCA as a teen program director. I spent almost 6 years at the Evergreen State College in the Office of Admissions as the Assistant Director of Admission, and I currently work for the State Superintendent of Public Instruction doing educator development and communications. I coordinate educator recognition programs there, things like Teacher of the Year. If I'm elected, my priorities will be to focus on equity, options, and engagement. And I just want to take a minute and say how thrilled I am to hear so many of the candidates say that equity is a top issue for them. I think it's something that often gets swept under the rug in progressive communities like Olympia. We don't want to talk about the difficult challenges that equity presents in our community. And I have deep concerns about the way our district is approaching their equity vision and plan. They have not engaged other community leaders or municipal leaders or elected officials. They have convened a mysterious equity committee and no one really knows how they got on it. And there's not real good clarity on what they plan to do with that. They're also looking only at test scores. And I think what we've learned about equity, if we've learned anything in the last 2 decades, is that you can't just measure equity by test scores. You need to be looking at things like school climate and family engagement and disciplinary rates. So that's a huge priority for me. The 2 other things that I'm really interested in pursuing are options for kids, and I think 2 of our candidates have already done a great job speaking to that. I would just put in there that having wide variety of options in our public school system guards against the incursion from charter schools and vouchers. We have huge wait lists, and if those parents don't get the kinds of services they want, it opens us up to charter schools and vouchers, and I don't think any of us want that. And finally, engagement. I share all of the concerns that Scott expressed, and I would just say that it's important to me that we build systems for engagement and not just look for representatives who represent a particular viewpoint on the school board. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Hilary. And now I'd like to welcome Ryan Tebow, position 4 for the Tumwater School District.
My name is Ryan Tebow. I'm running for Tumwater School District, position number 4. And thank you for our revolution for hosting this. I recently became a Democrat, specifically to caucus for Bernie Sanders. I believe in the progressive values of wanting to have really welcoming students to our schools, to accept all students of every race and gender identity, of citizenship status, primary language. And I want those progressive values represented on our school board. But the main reason I'm running is that I'm a teacher, and I've been a teacher for the last 12 years. I graduated with my master's when I was 23, and I've just been teaching the whole time. And I'm very passionate about it, and I love my job, and I love working with my students, and I know that's what I'll be doing until I retire. And I teach science, mostly chemistry, at Lakes High School in Lakewood. And during my time as a teacher, 3 years ago, I became a building representative for my union. Teachers really go through a lot, and there's a lot of struggles that teachers go through, especially younger and beginning teachers. I had a lot of conflicts with my administrators, and I really wanted to be an advocate for all the teachers in my building and make sure they understand our union contract. And that's really why I'm running, is that Tumwater schools, in previous years, they were working without a union contract. They're the lowest paid of our 3 surrounding areas. It is the smallest school, but they're operating with a $12 million surplus. They can afford to pay teachers more. Their contract is ending August of 2017. I want to make sure that teachers have a good contract with more pay, but there's more things that go into a contract besides pay and enforcing the contract that we make. I also, not just as a teacher, but personally as a parent with a son in the district, I want him to have the best education for the next 9 years of his life. I want the district to be responsive to the parents and to the community at large. Thank you.
So we're going to go ahead and open up the question and answer portion, and I will start with a question from the audience. So we've talked a little bit about equity in the school system. Can you talk specifically about how you would change equity? How would you engage children to graduate and be prepared for the next level?
Well, I think I'll just expand on what I said during my introduction. I think one of the key issues is that we need to broaden our understanding of equity and what makes kids successful. Certainly graduation rates are important, but there are many, many other ways to measure equity, and I think we are missing opportunities to grow stronger communities and better family support for families of all different types of students when we are looking only at graduation rates and test scores on standardized tests. So one of the first things that I would push for in an equity vision and plan would be to start talking about school safety, school climate, family engagement, and really dig into the disciplinary statistics for the school district. That's not really something that the district is looking for closely right now, and I think that that would be illuminating for going forward and probably give us some good insight into what is the path forward.
Really glad that we're addressing this. I think I'll share 2 specific policy ideas that I think would be fantastic for the district to adopt and think strongly about. The first is that if you want to address equity issues, especially for students of color, then we have to do the work to increase the diversity of the teacher population, right? And this isn't just true of Olympia. This is a statewide and a national issue, that there's not enough, the diversity of teachers is not reflective of the diversity of the student population. One really interesting and evidence-based way that you can work on that problem is by opening up a pipeline for paraeducators to become teachers. Because paraeducators are frequently parents that decide they want to work at their children's school. And just demographically, they are more diverse and are more representative of the student population. And if the district was providing supportive ways for paraeducators to get teaching credentials, we could be at the forefront of increasing teacher diversity, which I think is critical to training and cultivating cultural competence and helping students of color see success in front of them in the classroom.
I agree, Scott. Paraeducators are a great resource. It's not the only one, but it's definitely one that needs to be developed. And along with that, when we were talking about teacher pay, the paraeducator pay is abysmal and would need to be considered in conjunction with teachers. But you need to have, pay doesn't sound like it's an equity thing, but in order to draw people and to draw the best people and then to keep them here, we have to thank them for that. We have to give them the money that they deserve. But with equity, I think we really need to focus on something like an equity action plan for the schools, for the district as well, but for the schools specifically. How are they going to take action to be a more equitable school? How are they going to take action to support their underserved students, whether they're underserved because they're homeless or they're underserved because they're a race that's not traditionally been at that school, so people don't know how to engage them effectively. We need to work with our teachers to develop those cultures and then also support those students.
I want to agree. I think as far as equity goes, we need to look at how we can diversify our paraeducators and our teachers. And one thing I think that is important is the pay. I mean, right now, if a teacher can go to this school district because they're going to get paid X amount of dollars, what is their incentive to want to come to our district? So we need to find ways to draw a more diverse workforce for our students to be able to support them. In regards to graduation rates, I agree we need to look at disciplinary actions. We need to be more transparent with what happens in schools between the students, between students and staff, because if you are having a negative experience, that's going to reflect through on your education and whether you potentially could make it to that final stage of graduating.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat too much because teacher pay is, of course, really important. But as a teacher, often, students of color are disciplined at a much higher rate and disproportionately for the same act or thing they do in the classroom that's disruptive. A white student versus a black student, the black student's more likely to get sent to the office or a referral. That's just how it is, and there's this inherent racism that is in schools and it's in classrooms, and we can't ignore it. Like, when we need to proactively take measures against it, and not just and educating all the stakeholders about what's actually going on to stop it.
Start with Ryan. This is another question from the audience. What is your stance on target schools, for instance, like Lincoln or Marshall, and their programs? And it's a two-parter. Does this take money away from more needy students? Start, Ryan. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we need to provide choices to students, but I also do strongly believe in, I mostly have experience with high school and comprehensive high schools. There's lots of things larger high schools can do that smaller schools just can't do, and it allows for more resources. And I think generally as a teacher, we need to provide lots of options to students, but also I want to have the highest expectations possible. So it might seem unrealistic to say every student going to a four-year college, but that's where we have to start. Because if we're not preparing them for that, then they're automatically gonna fall short of that.
So I feel like the alternative education options we have, we need to expand that more. I think like what was said earlier, that if we don't, that is going to potentially increase more parents who are interested in vouchers, which will take away from our public education. So I think we really need to invest in spreading that out more. As far as affecting, I guess it was the financial aspect? Yeah, taking money away, I'm sorry. I think that's where it comes into place with the community support, whether it's large businesses or, like Microsoft or whichever that are in our area in the state, or even local businesses help support the schools. I think that will potentially offset some of that we potentially could see a little bit of. But I think that it takes a village to raise a child. And so if we get the community more involved and businesses more involved, I think we can spread out the alternative education more and not see a negative financial impact.
I would agree that the alternate programs, alternative learning environments that we have at Olympia are really a gift and should be expanded. But they should be expanded in a way that provides access to these programs for far more people than currently have access. Right now, if you do not attend a parent meeting in February or March, you cannot join the lottery for any of these schools. If you do not have, if you can't get your child there, there's some busing, but it's not very convenient depending on what areas of the city you live in. So those kinds of things, I think the programs are really good programs, and they serve a number of kids who are not going to succeed in the traditional schools. They're struggling, and they're not in a good place there. And these programs offer them a different option to learn and be the best kid, the best learner that they can be. And it also offers a space for our teachers to be the best teachers they can be. And that's another part of this equation that's really important to consider.
This is a really important question. I don't think that the options programs in our district, so if you're talking about Lincoln, the Hanson Alternative Program, or Orla Montessori, those three core elementary programs, they're not taking money away from other schools. But what they do take away from other schools are the most engaged parents. By and large, these are programs that you have highly involved families and folks that are paying tight attention to their kids' education. And so you do wind up with a dynamic where the most engaged parents are at those schools. And I think that is a fair question. How do you address that deficit of parental involvement in programs across the district? I think it is a fair question to ask about whether setting up more programs like Hanson, where it's an alternative program within a traditional elementary school, is a way to better spread those resources across the district. I've heard that kind of question from parents at LP Brown, Roosevelt, Boston Harbor, and I think that those are fair questions to explore, because as the other speakers have pointed out, these programs, these flexible learning environments, are the future. They are the way to educate kids that have diverse learning habits.
And I'll just echo what everyone else said. I think what I would just remind folks is that the schools are funded on a per pupil rate, and because the programs that we're asked about are all part of the public system, they just get funded the same as a more traditional school. I think since we've been talking about elementary, I'll just pipe in too, as far as high school goes, we have some great alternative programs at the middle and high school level as well. There's a great citizen scientist initiative at Marshall that I think you all would be really interested in seeing what they're working on. There's also some great hands-on learning happening at both Capitol and Ole through the Grubb School and Freedom Farmers. And I think what I'd like to see too is more integrated hands-on career and technical education implemented alongside college preparatory coursework. I totally agree with what Ryan said, is that you start assuming kids are going to go to college. I can't tell you how many times as an admissions counselor I saw kids who didn't have the curriculum they wanted because a counselor assumed they weren't college material. But I don't think that means you have to exclude great career and technical education, hands-on learning, and apprenticeship programs, which we should have more of in our comprehensive high schools.
All right, the final question for the question and answer portion. How do you feel, or excuse me, what is your opinion in the rise and popularity of charter schools and vouchers?
It's a hot topic tonight. Well, I've been filling out endorsement questionnaires, and I think I'll keep this short and sweet. In general, no. I mean, I've traveled around the country working for a progressive liberal arts public college, Evergreen, and so I visited a lot of very interesting schools, some public schools, some private schools, and some charter schools. And I'll tell you, the only place I've ever seen charter schools really work is when they work the way that Olympia already has their alternative programs work, meaning they're integrated into a public school system and they are supervised by an elected board of citizens. We already have the best model for charter schools in Olympia public schools, and I don't think there's any reason to monkey with it. I think we just need to focus on growing what we already have.
Charter schools are devastating and a bad idea. Vouchers are devastating and a bad idea. And the Olympia School District is the case for why it's not necessary, right? The talking point of the right on this stuff is that public schools are insufficiently flexible, don't provide flexible learning environments, are beholden to the teachers' unions, blah, blah, blah. And Olympia is full of examples about how you can create flexible learning environments within traditional school districts. I will say this, the alternative programs in our district right now are succeeding in an environment of benign neglect. The elementary school programs all have wait lists. They've all had wait lists for well over a decade. The middle school programs have wait lists. The most storied middle school alternative program, the Alki program at Reeves, was shuttered this year. The alternative programs in this district aren't getting the support they need right now. Or take it to Freedom Farmers. That piece of land is not getting developed further as a farm, specifically because the district is holding out a hope that they can either sell the property or build a new middle school on it when pocket gophers come off the list. So that's not okay. That program needs to be invested in now.
I don't think you're going to find a lot of diversity, in my opinion, from what you've heard. But I am not a fan of charter schools. I understand in some parts of the country they are serving a purpose because there is no or very little choice or options among schools in certain areas, and they're serving that purpose. In our area, we have some choice. We can use more, but it doesn't. We have a good model. We have Orla, which is its own independent model. We have Lincoln. We have middle school models. And I don't believe in taking public dollars and putting them in a private operated institution that's not monitored or supervised by elected officials, or at least public officials of some kind. I think that's about all I'll say about that.
So again, I agree. I don't think, especially here in Olympia, we need any type of charter or voucher system in place. We need to expand all alternative educations, and not just at the elementary level, but also at the middle school level, and even high school, and develop, instead of building another building, that's not going to necessarily solve all problems. We need to be able to have other alternative programs like the Future Farmers. And again, I agree also that I don't feel public dollars should be put into a private entity. I mean, if someone wants their child to go to a private school or a specialized school, they're going to make it happen. And we shouldn't be taking our public dollars and putting it somewhere where we don't have a say, where there's not elected public officials to help monitor how that's spent or what it's being done with it. So.
Yeah, I agree with all. I'll go one step further, that voucher programs are unconstitutional. They break the First Amendment. It violates separation of church and state. It's something as a science teacher and something I see on my school board of intermingling of religion and public schools. It's a way for public taxpayer money to go towards Christian or other religious education, and that absolutely can't happen. I don't see any other benefit for that, and they should never happen. I mean, if we fully fund education the way the legislator should be funding it, then schools have more money. We should have more options for students.
Thank you all very much. Could you please, each of you, tell us again the position you're running for, who you're running against, and your social media contact or other contact information? Thank you.
I'm Ryan Tebow. I'm running for Tumwater School Board position number 4. My Facebook is Tebow4, like the letter 4, Tumwater, and my website is tebowforschoolboard.com. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Cornelius, and I'm running for Olympia School Board of Directors, position 5. And you can find me on Facebook at Rebecca C. Oley, School Board of Directors. And I have a couple wonderful other people I'm running with, Mark Campu and Scott. So hopefully you will enjoy.
I'm Leslie Huff. I'm running for position 3 on the Olympia School Board. Katie Bridges is also running for this position, and my more information is available at leslieforschools.org. It's Leslie, not the number 4, Leslie FOR schools.org, and facebook.com/leslieforschools.
Thanks. My name is Scott Clifthorne. I'm running for position 5 on the Olympia School Board of Directors. As Rebecca mentioned, there are 2 other candidates in this race, Rebecca Cornelius and Mark Campo. You can find information about my campaign as well as opportunities to volunteer. I'm out precinct walking every weekend, and I've been out on a few weeknights now. You can find it at Scott Clifthorne, SCOTTCLIFTHORNE .com. And you can find me at Clifthorne for Schools on Facebook. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Hilary. I am running for the Olympia School Board position 4. There is another candidate, Anne Height. Oh, Anne, I haven't met you. Oh, nice to meet you. And pronounce your last name for me? Height Camper. Anne is running as well. And you can find more information about my campaign at hilaryforschools.com. I'm on Facebook at Hilary for Schools. And if you really want to push my communications boundaries, you can follow me on Twitter at Hungry Lutheran and encourage me to tweet more often.
Thank our school board candidates.